In today's video we're going to be delving back into some more Elden Ring Nightreign, and for this one we're going to be going over all of the boss relics, exactly what they do, and giving them all a complete tier list ranking. Now obviously there's a whole bunch of relics that you can acquire within this game. A lot of them are going to be randomised and very hard to kind of triple up on and get the right attributes to modifiers, but with the boss relics they're going to be set in stone, so I'll be going over what ones I believe are well worth putting in quite a few of your builds. Now currently at the moment I'm not going to be including the enhanced bosses because not all of those are going to be out for quite some time, but once they are I'll do a revised list including those ones or doing them separately. But for the moment, for your expeditions, I'm going to be going over the boss relics that you can acquire and ultimately if they're really worth equipping. So the first one we're going to be going over is going to be for the Tricos Expedition. This is going to see you taking on Gladius, the Beast of Night, and although it's not actually a relic drop from him, this is associated with him because you're going to be getting that old pocket watch whenever you defeat him first time, or you can actually get it as a lucky drop if you're fighting him a few times over. This is going to be used in conjunction with the Duchess questline, so it's one that's kind of a guaranteed drop. However, unfortunately, because it is a very early game relic, this is one that only has two modifiers on it. One of them is Dexterity +3, which can help a little bit on your builds but is never going to be really game changing, and the other one is going to be FP Restoration upon your successive attacks. This can be quite nice in a few builds, for example something along the lines of maybe Duchess could take advantage of this. However, for a lot of builds there'll be much better relics out there than this one, so even though the FP Restoration can be quite nice, it's not really something that's going to stand out massively overall. For that reason, unfortunately, this one's going to pop straight into the very bottom tier, which is going to be the C tier on our tier list. Over to the actual boss relic reward for defeating Gladius, and this time you'll be grabbing up Knight of the Beast. This one's going to give you stamina recovery with each successful attack, and it's +1, so it's the kind of better variant, which I believe gives around about 3 stamina back every single consecutive strike. And as well as this, your starting armament also deals fire damage. This is not a bad relic in the slightest and definitely a nice one to start off with. However, again, there are better ones out there, and because it doesn't triple stack anything, it means you're always going to be missing out on that last slot. For that reason, we're going to be placing this one slightly above the last, just over into the B tier. Now the second expedition is going to see you taking on this absolute monstrosity that's going to be the Gaping Jaw. This is going to be Adele, Baron of the Night, and once you defeat them, you're going to be rewarded with the Knight of the Baron relic. This relic is going to give you improved critical hits, arc gauge fills up moderately upon critical hits, and your critical hits boost your stamina recovery speed. Pretty much a complete triple stack of critical hits, so if you enjoy using that, this is one you might want to look into, but I found a lot of times it can be a little bit on the niche side because you're not going to be pulling off constantly, so overall you're going to have a lot of downtime on this relic. However, if you are someone who does pull them off quite a lot, say for example something like a Raider might use this, then you are going to get a nice bit of additional damage because it's going to give you 20% extra on those critical hit damage. Then it's going to fill up your arc gauge a bit, giving you your ultimate a little bit faster, but probably the main thing you'll be after is going to be the critical hit, boosting your stamina recovery speed because it actually affects it quite nicely, giving you 10 stamina recovery per second for 15 seconds. This can actually allow you to swing away quite a lot after you have dished out a whole bunch of additional damage with your critical strike, but again it's not one that will be used constantly, so for that reason though it's not a bad choice, but I'm going to be putting it over in the B tier again. Heading over to our third expedition, and this is going to see us taking on the Sentient Pest, which is going to be Nosta, the Wisdom of Night. Anyone who's faced this enemy knows that it can be a bit tricky because you're going to be taking on multiple foes at once. But if you do manage to take down the Scorpion and the Moth as well, then you're finally going to be rewarded with the Knight of the Wise relic. This relic is probably one of my favourite relics in the game. It's just really easy to slot into a lot of builds on a lot of different characters, and all 3 of the modifiers on it work really nicely hand in hand. First one is going to give you increased maximum FP, so this is going to give you 25 extra FP as standard, and then just after that it's also going to give your starting armament a poison effect so you can inflict it on your foes. Poison's actually pretty good in this game, and again it's going to work with the next modifier, which is going to be your poison, and rotting vicinity is going to increase your attack power. This works out to around about 12%, so even if you're switching over to another weapon and you've got a Scarlet Rot weapon going on, this can really help you out to dish out a little bit of extra damage. And like I said, I just feel like it's an easy one to put into a lot of playstyles, giving you a bit of extra damage overall, as well as 3 nice modifiers. For that reason, this is going to be the first one that I put up in S tier, and it's one that I enjoy using quite a lot on several characters. Over to one of the most annoying enemies in the game. This is going to see you taking on the expedition to fight Orgor, which is going to be Maris, Fathom of Night. This boss, if it stood still for a moment, would get absolutely destroyed by everyone. However, it decides to fly off, move around the battleground as much as possible, and just makes your life a whole bunch more difficult than it needs to be because of just how mobile it is. However, if you do finally manage to take it down, you're going to get quite a nice reward from it, which is going to be the relic Knight of the Fathom. Again, this is a relic that's really nice because it can work on almost every single character class, because it's going to give you extra maximum HP, which is going to give you 100 HP straight off the start. This can help out very early on in your games, especially if you've got a squishy class, but as well as that, it's also going to give you flask, also heal your allies, so now if they're in a certain vicinity, a little bit close by you, you'll be able to replenish their health by 50% whenever you're popping your flask. And finally, items confer effects to all nearby players. This one is a really nice support relic that can help out people, especially if you've got a few things that are going to buff them, for example things like Bald Crab or anything that's going to give them a bit of negation, and the extra health to yourself as well as your allies definitely makes this one worth having. For that reason, although I'm not going to put it as top tier, I am going to put it right up there, and we're going to be sliding it over into that A tier. Over to the expedition that I think I was stuck on for the longest. I do not even know how many times I fell over on this boss, but whenever I was playing with random players we seem to have a lot of trouble with this guy, and that's going to be your Equilibrious Beast expedition, where you face off against Libra, Creature of Night. This boss is all about inflicting madness and just dishing out a whole bunch of damage to you whilst bopping around the battlefield trying to take you out with his status effects. If you do manage to finally take him down, you'll be rewarded with his boss relic, Knight of the Demon. Knight of the Demon comes with 3 modifiers. The first one's going to be a huge rune discount for your shop purchases while out on your expedition, and I believe this works out to around about 20% off whenever you're buying items from him. So it can work out nice, especially if you've got a town in place and you're going to be buying up some talismans. The next one is a bit of a strange one, but if you manage to perform the gesture, cross legs, it's now going to build up madness. You may think that's odd, and why on earth would you ever be doing that? But it's going to go again hand in hand with the final one, which is whenever you do get madness, it's going to continually recover a little bit of your FP. This worked out to around about 2 FP a second for 25 seconds, and although it is one that can help out if you're completely out of your kind of starlight shards and stuff, I found this a really niche relic to put on, and especially now that some of the new relics are out over on the signboard, this one became a little bit obsolete for me. So if it was me personally, I would highly recommend not worrying about this one, getting yourself a whole bunch of starlight shards, grabbing yourself a massive FP bar and using something a little bit different in its place. For that reason, unfortunately, this one's going to be dropping all the way down the tier list, where it's going to be hitting over in the C rank. Next up, and we're going to be checking out the Centaur boss. This expedition is going to see you fighting the Dark Drift Knight, where you'll be facing off against Fulgor, champion of Nightglow. Anyone who's faced this boss will know it can be a little bit tricky with all of the AoE and kind of crazy fast attacks that are coming your way. However, defeating him will reward you with a very specialised relic that has some really nice modifiers on it. The relic you'll be rewarded with is going to be Knight of the Champion. This is going to give you increased maximum stamina, your guard counter is going to be given a boost based on your current HP, and you're also going to get HP restoration upon thrusting counter attack. Now this one is probably a little bit niche again, because I think it's mainly going to be aimed towards your Guardian class more than any, although probably I could use it a little bit, but all of these are actually pretty nice modifiers. The increased maximum stamina is going to give you 10 max stamina overall. The guard counter is actually one of the strongest buffs in the game, depending on how high your HP is and what weapon you've got going on, can dish out in general anywhere between 15 to 30% extra damage. And finally, the HP restoration one is going to be good whenever enemies are attacking and you attack them, you nab yourself a little bit of HP back, which I believe is not the most, but is a little bit at about 25 overall. Like I said, is a little bit of a niche one, but for your Guardians this is probably going to be a little bit top tier, and for that reason I'm going to be chucking it all the way over into that A, because I think for Guardians and such is one well worth equipping. For our next expedition we're going to be tackling the largest boss fight currently going in the game. That's going to be your Fissure in the Fog, where you'll be facing down this absolutely massive dragon. You better make sure you've got some good dodges available to you and running away from a whole bunch of his area attacks. But after you've faced him, hopefully you'll take him down and be rewarded with his nice boss relic, which is going to be Knight of the Miasma. This comes with 3 really nice modifiers on it, and the first one's going to be nearby frostbite is going to conceal yourself. This is good because this same relic actually gives you a way of creating frostbite. That's going to be by changing your compatible armament skill over to Chilling Mist. Unfortunately, this doesn't work on absolutely every armament, but it does work on most of them. One of the main ones I can think of that it won't work on would be something along the lines of bow. And of course, whenever you do inflict frostbite, you're also going to get 20% extra damage because frostbite negates them by that much. So that's one of the best status effects to actually inflict. As well as this though, the third and final one is going to be attack power up when facing frostbite afflicted enemies. So now if you do afflict them with it and you've got that on yourself, this will give you 10% extra increased damage to that enemy, plus the 20 from the frostbite as well. But of course, your team will also be getting 20% extra damage because they're afflicted with frostbite as well. Obviously, this won't work on absolutely every boss, so if you have got a boss that's completely null and void to frostbite, this one's going to be a little bit on the lacking side, but for anyone who's not, this one is absolutely top tier. For that reason, I'm going to be placing this up in S rank alongside the one we saw a little bit earlier. Finally, we're going to be moving across to the very last relic, and in order to get this one, you're going to need to take down the biggest, baddest standard boss currently in the game. The expedition you'll be tackling is going to be the Night aspect, where you'll be taking on Hellstead the Night Lord. Hopefully you'll be prepared for this guy because he dishes out a whole bunch of damage. He's going to have 2 phases, and the second phase really does involve a whole bunch of AoEs going off and making sure you don't get caught up in them. But if you manage to get a team together and take him down or take him down solo, you're going to be rewarded with the final boss relic, which is going to be Night of the Lord. Now for this one, I'm probably going to get in a bit of trouble with this because I know a lot of people don't like this relic, but whenever I've used it, I've found it to be actually really strong overall and also a lot of fun to use. However, it is one that will take a bit of a distinct playstyle, so you'll either kind of love it or hate it, and that's going to be because of the main modifier that's on it, and that's going to be switching weapons adds an affinity attack. This is really cool, so when you do swap over to another weapon, you're going to get an added affinity attack onto it, and as well as this, it works with the second pairing, which is going to be boost your attack power of added affinity attacks, again enhancing the damage overall. This is going to give you a 10% damage boost, and the third one is going to be switching weapons boost your attack power, again giving you a 10% damage boost once more. I actually found this to work really well in a lot of playstyles and quite often run it on my Iron Eye for a lot of nice additional damage, and the cool thing as well is they actually work slightly different when it's on a few other characters, because on certain characters you'll actually be able to swap over from one hand attack to two hand attack, which will proc the actual boost your attack power. Overall though, I really like this relic. I know a lot of people will probably say it's a little bit of a mid tier one from all the times I've been using it, unless again you go against a boss that is resistant to your affinity attacks, in which case where it will drop down the list. But personally, most times I found this to be really top tier, so for that reason I'm going to chuck it all the way up into the top, over into the S rank alongside our other two. But yeah, let me know in the comments, is there any you would completely change up and put somewhere else? Overall, this is how I found them to be. As always, I'd love to hear from you. There's going to be a load more content away from me. For now, take care. I'll see you on the next day.